The transport shuttle touched down with a soft thud on Korean soil. Yuna pressed her face against the small window and watched the familiar skyline of Seoul stretch across the horizon. 3 years had passed since she last saw those buildings. 3 years since the Zephyrian ships had appeared in Earth's sky like angry metal wasps. She was 14 when the recruitment officers came to her school. Now she was 17 and coming home from a war that most people only saw on the news. The shuttle doors opened with a hiss. Yuna grabbed her small military bag and walked down the metal steps. Her boots made soft sounds on the concrete. Around her, other soldiers were hugging family members and crying happy tears. She stood alone and looked around. Yuna. The voice was soft and careful. She turned and saw her parents standing 20 feet away. Her father Bin looked older now. His black hair had gray streaks that were not there before. Her mother Hannah covered her mouth with both hands. Her eyes were wide and filled with tears. Yuna walked toward them slowly. She noticed how they both stepped back a little when they saw her face. She had forgotten about the scar that ran from her left ear down to her collarbone. The doctors said it would fade, but it never did. "Hello, Mother." "Hello, Father." Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Too formal. Too cold. Hannah reached out to hug her, but stopped when she saw Yuna's left arm. The cybernetic replacement was sleek and silver. It moved like a real arm, but everyone could see it was not made of flesh and bone. The Zephyrian plasma blast that took her original arm had also taken 3 of her squad mates. "Oh, my baby," Hannah whispered. "What did they do to you?" Yuna did not answer. She did not know how to explain that they had not done anything to her. She had volunteered for the replacement. She had volunteered for many things during the war. The drive home was quiet. Ben kept looking at her in the mirror while he drove. Hannah sat in the passenger seat and twisted her hands in her lap. They passed streets that Yuna remembered, but they looked smaller now. Everything looked smaller. "Your room is exactly how you left it," Hannah said as they pulled into their driveway. "I cleaned it every week. I kept everything the same." Yuna nodded but said nothing. The house looked like a toy house compared to the massive military shit she had called home for 3 years. The garden that her mother loved so much was pretty, but it seemed pointless. During the war, every plant was either food or medicine, or it was nothing. Inside the house, everything smelled like her mother's cooking and cleaning products. The smell made her stomach tight with emotions she did not want to feel. Her parents followed her as she walked through the rooms. They watched her like she might disappear again. Her bedroom door was covered in old stickers from her favorite music groups. She pushed it open and stepped inside. Pink walls surrounded her. Stuffed animals sat on shelves. Posters of smiling pop stars looked down at her from every wall. This had been her world once. This small room with its soft bed and pretty things. She remembered being happy here. She remembered caring about which stuffed animal to sleep with and which poster to put above her desk. Now it felt like looking at someone else's life through glass. Yuna sat on the edge of her bed. The mattress was too soft. For 3 years she had slept on military bunks that were hard as rocks. This bed felt like it might swallow her whole. Her parents stood in the doorway. They looked scared and hopeful at the same time. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" Hannah asked. "I made all your favorite foods." Yuna looked at her mother. This woman had raised her and loved her and waited for her to come home. She deserved better than a daughter who felt like a stranger in her own house. "Yes, Mother," Yuna said. "I am hungry." It was not exactly true, but it was not exactly a lie either. The alarm clock buzzed at 6 in the morning. Yuna was already awake. She had been awake since 4:30, lying in bed and staring at the ceiling. 3 years of military schedules had taught her body to wake up before dawn. She put on the school uniform that her mother had bought for her. The white shirt and blue skirt felt strange after years of wearing combat armor. The fabric was too thin. It would not stop a knife, let alone a plasma blast. She kept thinking about how easy it would be for someone to hurt her while she wore these clothes. Breakfast was rice and soup and pickled vegetables. Normal food that tasted like childhood. Yuna ate quickly and efficiently like she had learned to do in the military. Her parents watched her with worried eyes but said nothing. The walk to Dalen High School took 15 minutes. Yuna counted her steps and noted every corner where someone could hide. She mapped the quickest routes to cover if shooting started. These thoughts came automatically now. She could not turn them off. The school building was 3 stories tall and painted yellow. Students gathered in small groups outside the main entrance. They laughed and talked about weekend parties and television shows. Yuna listened to their conversations and felt like she was hearing a foreign language. Her first class was chemistry. The teacher was a middle-aged woman named Mrs. Park who smiled too much and spoke too loudly. She wrote chemical formulas on the board and explained how different elements combine to make new substances. Yuna stared at the formulas, and her mind started working. She calculated how much damage each compound could do if it exploded. She thought about which chemicals could be mixed together to make weapons. She remembered the Zephyrian poison gas that had killed half of Bravo Company. "Miss Yuna," Mrs. Park said, "can you tell us what happens when we mix these 2 chemicals?" Yuna looked at the board. "Sodium and chlorine. You get salt," she said, "but if you add heat and pressure you can make an explosive device that will destroy everything within a 50-meter radius." The classroom went quiet. Mrs. Park blinked several times and cleared her throat. "We are just making table salt today," she said in a shaky voice. At lunchtime, Yuna sat in the cafeteria with her back against the wall. She chose a table where she could see all the entrances and exits. Her enhanced hearing picked up dozens of conversations happening around her. Most of them were about homework and gossip, and who was dating who. A girl with long black hair sat down across from her. "Yuna, right," she said. "I am Rena. We used to be friends before you left." Yuna looked at her carefully. She remembered a chubby girl with pigtails who liked to draw pictures of flowers. This girl was taller and thinner and wore makeup like the other teenagers. "I remember you," Yuna said. Rena smiled and leaned forward. "Tell me everything," she said. "What was it like in space? Did you really fight aliens? Were you scared?" Yuna thought about how to answer. She remembered the first time she saw a Zephyrian soldier. It was 8 feet tall with 4 arms and teeth like broken glass. She remembered the sound it made when it died. She remembered cleaning alien blood off her armor for 3 hours afterward. "It was different," she said. "Different how?" Rena asked. "Come on, you have to give me details. Everyone wants to know what happened up there." A boy at the next table was talking loudly about a video game where players fought alien monsters. He laughed and made explosion sounds with his mouth. His friends joined in, and they all pretended to shoot laser guns at each other. Yuna watched them play and felt something cold in her chest. They thought war was a game. They thought killing was fun. They had no idea what it really meant to point a weapon at another living thing and pull the trigger. "I do not want to talk about it," Yuna said. Rena looked disappointed. "But everyone is so curious," she said. "You are famous now. The girl who went to war and came back." Famous. Yuna did not feel famous. She felt tired and out of place, and like she was wearing a costume that did not fit right. The bell rang and students started moving to their next classes. Yuna stood up and gathered her books. She had 4 more hours of school left, and then she could go home to her pink bedroom and try to remember how to be a normal teenager. It was going to be a long day. 3 weeks into the school term, Yuna thought she was getting better at pretending to be normal. She sat through classes without calculating kill zones. She ate lunch without checking for poison. She even smiled sometimes when Rena told jokes that were not funny. Then came the fire drill. The alarm started at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon during math class. The sound was sharp and loud and came without warning. It cut through the air like a plasma rifle charging up for a shot. Yuna's body reacted before her mind could catch up. Her muscles tensed. Her breathing stopped. Her cybernetic arm moved to where her sidearm should have been, but found nothing except empty space. The teacher, Mr. Lee, stood up and spoke in a calm voice. "Everyone line up at the door," he said. "Walk slowly to the emergency exit. This is just a practice drill." Students started moving toward the door. They talked and laughed like nothing important was happening. Some of them seemed happy to get out of math class early. Yuna stayed in her seat. The alarm kept ringing and ringing. It sounded exactly like the alert system on the military ships. The sound that meant incoming enemy fire. The sound that meant people were about to die. A boy named Jun walked past her desk. He moved quickly, and his footsteps were heavy on the floor. In her peripheral vision, Yuna saw him reach toward his backpack. Her training kicked in. She spun out of her chair and tackled Jun to the ground. Her cybernetic arm wrapped around his throat while her real hand searched his body for weapons. Jun made choking sounds and tried to push her away, but Yuna was stronger than she looked. "Where is it?" she shouted over the alarm. "Where is the detonator?" Jun's eyes were wide with fear and confusion. "What detonator?" he gasped. "What are you talking about?" The other students stopped moving toward the door. They stared at Yuna with shocked faces. Some of them backed away from her like she was dangerous. Mr. Lee rushed over and put his hands up. "Yuna, let him go," he said in a careful voice. "There is no danger. This is just a fire drill." The words reached through the fog in Yuna's mind. Fire drill. Practice. Not real. She looked down at Jun, who was turning red from lack of air. She let go of him and stumbled backward. Jun rolled away from her and coughed loudly. He looked at her like she was a wild animal that might attack again. The other students whispered to each other and pointed at her. Crazy. Dangerous. What is wrong with her? Yuna could not breathe properly. The alarm kept ringing, and the walls felt like they were closing in around her. She needed to get away from all the eyes staring at her. She needed to find cover. She ran out of the classroom and down the hall. Her feet carried her to the nearest bathroom, where she pushed inside and locked the door behind her. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the cold tile floor. The memories came flooding back. The attack on Station 7. The sound of hull breaches and people screaming. The way Sergeant Kim looked after the Zephyrian blade went through his chest. The smell of burning metal and burning flesh. Her breathing came in short gasps. Her heart hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape. The cybernetic arm twitched and sparked as her stress levels spiked. Someone knocked softly on the bathroom door. "Go away," Yuna said. "My name is Kai." A boy's voice said through the door. "I am not here to hurt you. I just want to help." "I do not need help. My father had the same problem when he came back from the border wars," Kai said. "He used to wake up screaming. He used to see enemies everywhere." Yuna pressed her back against the wall. This boy knew about veterans. He understood what was happening to her. "The alarm stopped ringing 5 minutes ago," Kai said. "Everyone else went back to class. It is just you and me here now." Yuna listened carefully. He was right. The school was quiet except for the sound of her own breathing. "Can you tell me 5 things you can see right now?" Kai asked. The question was strange, but something about his voice made her want to answer. "The door," she said. "The mirror, the sink, the tile floor, my hands." "Good. Now 4 things you can touch." Slowly her breathing started to return to normal. Kai waited outside the bathroom until Yuna felt ready to come out. When she opened the door, she saw a thin boy with messy black hair and kind eyes. He wore thick glasses and carried his books in an old backpack that was held together with tape. "Thank you," Yuna said quietly. Kai nodded. "My father taught me those breathing exercises before he deployed to the Jupiter colonies. He said soldiers need to know how to calm their minds as much as their bodies." They walked together down the empty hallway. Yuna noticed that Kai moved carefully and kept his head down. He looked like someone who was used to trying not to be seen. "Where is your father now?" she asked. Kai's face became sad. He did not come back from his last mission. The transport ship had an accident on the way home. No survivors. Yuna stopped walking. She knew about transport accidents. She knew how many soldiers died not in battle, but in the cold emptiness of space when something went wrong with their ships. "I am sorry," she said. "He would have understood what happened to you today," Kai said. "He had nightmares too. He used to tell me that the hardest part of being a soldier was not the fighting. It was learning how to stop fighting when the war was over." From that day forward, Kai became Yuna's guide to normal teenage life. He sat with her at lunch and explained why people cared so much about sports and music and clothes. He helped her understand the unwritten rules of high school social groups. In return, Yuna taught him things that no other 17-year-old knew. She showed him how to walk without making noise, how to spot someone following you, how to use everyday objects as weapons if you had to defend yourself. "Why are you teaching me this?" Kai asked one afternoon as they practiced in the empty gymnasium. "Because you are small and quiet and bullies think that makes you weak," Yuna said. "But being small can be an advantage if you know how to use it." She was right about the bullies. A group of older boys led by a thick-necked student named Io had been picking on Kai for months. They took his lunch money and pushed him around and called him names. The confrontation happened on a Tuesday after school. Yuna and Kai were walking to the bus stop when Io and 3 of his friends blocked their path. Well, Io said with a nasty smile. "If it is not the crazy girl and her weird boyfriend." The other boys laughed and spread out to surround them. Yuna counted 4 opponents. She noted their positions and their body language. Io was the leader, but he was also the most confident, which made him sloppy. The boy on the left was nervous and kept shifting his weight. The one on the right had his hands in fists, but his stance was wrong. "Give us your money," Io said to Kai. "Both of you." Kai reached into his pocket, but Yuna put her hand on his arm to stop him. "No," she said simply. Io's smile disappeared. "What did you say to me?" "I said no. You will not take his money. You will not touch him. You will walk away now." The boys laughed louder. Io stepped closer to her. "You think you are tough because you went to space. Let me show you what happens to freaks who do not know their place." He swung his fist at Yuna's face. What happened next took less than 10 seconds. Yuna moved like liquid lightning. She caught Io's wrist and twisted it until he screamed. At the same time, she swept his legs and sent him crashing to the ground. The nervous boy on the left tried to grab her from behind. Yuna spun and drove her elbow into his stomach. He doubled over and fell to his knees, gasping for air. The other 2 boys hesitated for just a moment. That moment was all Yuna needed. She stepped forward and placed her cybernetic hand on the throat of the boy on the right. Her mechanical fingers tightened just enough to make him understand that she could crush his windpipe without effort. "Leave," she said in a voice that was calm and cold. "Do not come back. Do not bother him again." The boys ran away as fast as they could. Io limped after them, holding his twisted wrist and cursing under his breath. Kai stared at Yuna with wide eyes. "How did you do that?" he whispered. Word spread through the school like wildfire. The soldier girl had taken down 4 bullies without breaking a sweat. Students whispered about her reflexes and her strength and the way she moved like a trained killer. Yuna did not feel proud of what she had done. She felt tired and sad that violence had followed her even here. The news reporter found Yuna on Thursday morning as she walked to school. The woman had bright red lipstick and a camera crew following behind her like trained dogs. "Excuse me," the reporter called out. "Are you the student who was involved in the incident at Dalen High School last week?" Yuna kept walking, but the reporter matched her pace. The cameraman pointed his lens at her face like a weapon. "My sources tell me you have military experience," the reporter continued. "Can you confirm that you served in the Zephyrian War?" Yuna stopped walking. She looked directly into the camera with cold eyes. "No comment," she said. But it was too late. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Local news became national news, became international news. Someone had leaked her military records, and her real identity spread across the internet like a virus. Ghost of Kepler Station returns to high school. Teen war hero struggles with civilian life. The youngest soldier who saved Earth. Yuna tried to ignore the headlines, but they were impossible to escape. Students at school stared at her with new eyes. They whispered about her service record, and the battles she had fought, and the enemy she had killed. The truth was bigger than any of them had imagined. Yuna was not just a veteran. She was a legend. Kepler Station had been humanity's most important military outpost in the outer system. When the Zephyrians attacked it with overwhelming force, the commanding officers ordered an evacuation. Everyone ran except for one 15-year-old girl who stayed behind to operate the defense systems. For 6 days and 6 nights, Yuna held the station alone. She used the automated weapons and her knowledge of alien tactics to destroy wave after wave of enemy ships. She slept for 2 hours at a time and ate nothing but emergency rations and refused every order to abandon her post. The Zephyrians called her the Ghost because she seemed to be everywhere at once. Their sensors could never pin down her location. She would hit them from one side of the station, then appear on the other side like she could teleport through walls. When human reinforcements finally arrived, they found Kepler Station damaged but intact. Hundreds of destroyed enemy ships floated in the surrounding space, and one very tired teenage girl sitting in the command center with her cybernetic arm sparking from overuse. Now everyone at school knew this story. They looked at Yuna like she was made of something different than normal people. They asked for autographs and selfies and wanted to hear war stories that she did not want to tell. "Is it true that you killed over 300 Zephyrians?" a girl named Sue asked during lunch. Yuna did not answer. She did not like to think about numbers. Each enemy soldier had been someone's child or parent or friend. Killing was necessary during war, but it was not something to be proud of. The worst moment came during history class. Mr. Choi was teaching about the Zephyrian War, and he read from the textbook about the Battle of Kepler Station. The brave defense of the station showed that even young humans could fight with incredible courage, he read aloud. Though the exact details remain classified, the victory helped turn the tide of the war. Yuna raised her hand. "That is not exactly what happened," she said. Mr. Choi looked surprised. "Can you tell us more about it?" "The station's main reactor was damaged in the first attack," Yuna said. "I had to reroute power through the backup systems while running the weapons manually. The Zephyrians did not retreat because they were afraid. They retreated because they ran out of ships to throw at me." The classroom was completely silent. Students stared at her with open mouths. "The textbook says the defender used advanced tactics," Mr. Choi said carefully. "I used desperation," Yuna replied. "And I got lucky that the enemy commander was impatient. A smarter leader would have waited me out. I would have died from exhaustion within another day." After class, Kai found her sitting alone on the school roof. "Do you regret it?" he asked. "Becoming famous." Yuna looked out at the city below. Normal people were going about their normal lives. They worried about normal things like jobs and relationships, and what to have for dinner. "I just want to be like them," she said. "I want to care about small things again." The attack came on a Tuesday morning during first period English class. Yuna was reading a poem about spring flowers when the explosion started in downtown Seoul. At first, everyone thought it was construction work or maybe a gas leak. The sounds were distant and muffled by the school walls. Students looked up from their books, but nobody seemed worried. Then the emergency broadcast began. Principal Han's voice crackled over the intercom system. His words were careful, but Yuna could hear the fear underneath. "Students and teachers, please remain calm. There has been an incident in the city center. We are following lockdown procedures until authorities give us more information." Yuna felt ice water flow through her veins. She knew that sound. She knew those explosions. Zephyrian plasma charges made a very specific noise when they detonated. It was a sound she had heard too many times during the war. She pulled out her phone and checked the news feeds. The first videos were already appearing online. Shaky camera footage showed tall alien figures moving through the streets. Their 4 arms carried weapons that glowed with deadly energy. People screamed and ran in every direction. The war was supposed to be over. The peace treaty had been signed 6 months ago, but treaties meant nothing to sleeper cells that had been hiding on Earth for years waiting for their moment to strike. "Stay in your seats," Mrs. Jung said to the class. "The police will handle whatever is happening in the city." Yuna stood up and walked to the window. She could see smoke rising from the direction of downtown. Her enhanced hearing picked up the distant sound of plasma fire and human screams. "They are coming this way," she said quietly. Mrs. Jung looked confused. "Who is coming this way?" "The Zephyrians. They always hit government buildings first, then move to schools and hospitals, places where humans gather in large numbers." Some students laughed nervously. They thought she was being dramatic, but Kai looked at her face and saw the truth there. "How long do we have?" he asked. Yuna closed her eyes and listened. She counted the explosions and mapped their locations in her mind. The enemy was moving in a pattern she recognized from military training manuals. 20 minutes, she said. Maybe less. The next few minutes passed in chaos. Principal Han tried to contact the authorities, but the phone lines were jammed. Teachers argued about whether to evacuate or stay put. Students called their parents and cried into their phones. Yuna walked out of the classroom and down the hall toward the main office. She had to find Han and make him understand what was happening. She found him standing in his office staring at a television screen that showed burning buildings and alien soldiers marching through the streets like they owned the city. "Sir," Yuna said, "you need to evacuate the school right now." Han turned to look at her. His face was pale, and his hand shook slightly. "The emergency services said to shelter in place," he said. "They said it was safer to stay inside." "The emergency services do not understand Zephyrian tactics," Yuna replied. "These aliens will target this building within the next 15 minutes. If we stay here, everyone will die." Han opened his mouth to argue, but then another explosion rocked the neighborhood. This one was much closer, close enough to rattle the windows. "How can you be so sure?" he asked. "Because I fought them for 3 years, Yuna said. "I know how they think. I know how they hunt." She moved to his computer and pulled up a map of the area. Her fingers traced the path the aliens were taking through the city. "Look," she said. "They hit the police station first to disable response teams, then the power plant to cut electricity. Now they are moving toward population centers in a clockwise spiral pattern. We are next." Han stared at the map. Even he could see the pattern now. "What do you suggest we do?" he asked. "We evacuate everyone to the sports complex 2 blocks south. The building is reinforced concrete and has multiple exits. More importantly, the aliens will not expect civilians to move toward them instead of away from them." It was a desperate plan, but it was better than waiting to die. Han grabbed the intercom microphone. "All students and staff report to the main entrance immediately," he announced. "We are evacuating the building." This is not a drill. The evacuation moved like a controlled river of fear. 800 students and 50 teachers poured out of Dalen High School following Yuna's directions. She stood at the main entrance directing traffic like a seasoned commander. "Move in groups of 20, she called out. "Stay low and keep quiet. Follow the path I marked on the ground." She had used chalk to draw arrows on the sidewalk leading to the sports complex. The route avoided main streets and used buildings for cover. Most people would have run straight down the road, but Yuna knew that made them easy targets. Kai stayed close to her side, helping to keep the younger students calm. "How did you know to plan this?" he asked quietly. "Emergency evacuation procedures," Yuna replied without taking her eyes off the crowd. "We drilled it every week on the military ships. The key is to move fast, but not panic." Teachers tried to maintain order, but they were barely keeping it together themselves. Mrs. Jung kept asking if they should wait for official rescue teams. Mr. Choi wanted to go back for his car keys. Principal Han stood frozen watching the smoke rise from downtown. "Sir," Yuna said to Han, "you need to move with your people. Leaders cannot hesitate when lives are at stake." Her words snapped him back to reality. He nodded and started helping elderly teachers who were struggling to keep up with the pace. The sports complex was exactly what Yuna had promised. Thick concrete walls and multiple exit routes. She positioned students away from windows and set up simple barricades using gym equipment. To most people it looked random, but Yuna had created overlapping fields of fire in case they had to defend the building. The Zephyrian assault team reached the school 15 minutes after the evacuation finished. Through the complex windows they could see alien soldiers searching the empty hallways looking for victims they would never find. "You saved us all," whispered a girl named Hannah as they watched the frustrated aliens eventually move on to other targets. The government response teams arrived 2 hours later. They found 800 civilians safe in a fortified position, while the enemy had moved past them toward easier targets. Military officers asked detailed questions about how the evacuation had been organized and who had planned their defensive setup. "The girl did it," Principal Han told them. "Yuna planned everything." Within days, the story was international news again. The ghost of Kepler Station saves Korean high school. Teen war hero prevents massacre. The girl who could not escape her past had become the symbol of human courage once more. Government officials came to her house wearing expensive suits and serious expressions. They sat in her living room drinking her mother's tea and talked about duty and service and the greater good. "We need you back," said General Park. "The sleeper cells are more active than we thought. Earth needs its best defender." Yuna's parents sat quietly in the corner looking small and worried. They had just gotten their daughter back, and now important men wanted to take her away again. "I am 17 years old," Yuna said. "I want to finish high school and go to college like normal people." "You stopped being normal the day you held Kepler Station," the general replied. "Heroes do not get to choose when the world needs them." At school, everything changed again. Students who used to see her as the weird veteran girl now looked at her like she was made of legend and starlight. They asked her to solve problems that had nothing to do with military tactics. They wanted her to fix bullying and improve cafeteria food and help them with relationship advice. "You are our protector now," Ta said during lunch. "Everyone feels safer when you are around." But Rena felt differently. She approached Yuna after classes one day with tears in her eyes. "I do not know you anymore," Rena said. "When we were children, you were my best friend who liked the same music and the same TV shows. Now you are this famous person who saves the world and talks to generals." "I am still the same person inside," Yuna said. "No, you are not," Rena replied. "The friend I remember would never have known how to evacuate a school or fight alien soldiers. She would have been as scared as the rest of us." Rena walked away, leaving Yuna standing alone in the empty hallway. That night, Yuna lay in her pink bedroom staring at the ceiling. The stuffed animals looked down at her from their shelves like silent judges. She wondered if Rena was right. Maybe the girl who had lived in this room really was gone forever. Maybe there was no going back to being normal after you had seen too much and done too much and carried too much responsibility on your shoulders. The war was supposed to be over, but it followed her everywhere she went. Ms. Neri had kind eyes and spoke in a soft voice that never made Yuna feel judged. The school counselor's office was decorated with plants and comfortable chairs instead of military gray walls and hard benches. "Tell me about your dreams," Ms. Neri said during their third meeting. Yuna shifted in her seat. "I do not really dream anymore. I just have memories that replay when I sleep." "What kind of memories?" "The ones where people die because I made the wrong choice. The ones where people live because I made the right choice. Both kinds are equally difficult to carry." Ms. Neri nodded like she understood. "What if we could find a way for you to help people without having to choose between life and death?" The idea started small. Yuna began teaching a self-defense class after school for students who wanted to learn basic safety skills. She showed them how to be aware of their surroundings and how to escape from dangerous situations without fighting. "The goal is never to win a battle," she told her first group of 12 students. "The goal is to survive and go home safely." Kai was her first student and biggest supporter. He helped her demonstrate techniques and made sure everyone felt comfortable learning at their own pace. Soon word spread and more students joined the class. But Yuna realized she wanted to teach more than just physical skills. She started adding lessons about emergency preparedness and crisis management. She taught them how to stay calm under pressure and how to help others who might be panicking. During the school evacuation, most of you followed directions well, she said to a group of 30 students. But some of you froze up or tried to run in the wrong direction. Fear makes people do stupid things. Training helps you think clearly even when you are scared. The classes became popular throughout the school. Parents heard about them and asked if Yuna could teach their children too. Soon she was running sessions 3 times a week for different age groups. Ms. Neri suggested another idea. There are other students in the district whose parents served in the military. Some of them are struggling with similar issues to what you have experienced. The Veterans Children's Support Group met every Tuesday evening in the school library. There was Jin, whose mother lost her leg fighting on Mars. There was Hai, whose father came back from the asteroid belt wars with severe depression. There was Dong, whose older brother never came home from patrol duty near Jupiter. My dad jumps every time a door slams, Jin said during one meeting. He acts like he is still waiting for enemy attacks. My mother cries when she watches the news, Hai added. She sees stories about fighting in space, and she starts shaking. Yuna listened to their stories and recognized pieces of her own experience. These kids understood what it was like to love someone who had been changed by war. They knew about nightmares and flashbacks, and the way violence could follow people home. We cannot fix our parents, Yuna told the group, but we can learn to take care of ourselves and each other. We can be the support system they need while they heal. The work gave Yuna something she had not felt since leaving the military. Purpose. She was protecting people again, but not with weapons or tactics. She was protecting them with knowledge and community and hope. Her relationship with her parents began to improve too. Vin and Hannah could see that their daughter was finding her way back to them slowly. She started eating dinner with them again, instead of taking food to her room. She answered when they asked about her day. She even smiled sometimes when her mother told stories about the neighbors. You seem happier, Hannah said one evening as they washed dishes together. I am learning how to be both things at once, Yuna replied. The soldier and the daughter, the hero and the teenager. I do not have to choose just one. You were always good at impossible things, her father said from the kitchen table where he was reading the newspaper. Yuna looked at her cybernetic arm as it dried a plate with precise mechanical movements. Maybe Ben was right. Maybe doing impossible things was just part of being human. Maybe the real victory was not in defeating enemies, but in finding ways to build something better from the pieces of what had been broken. For the first time since coming home, she felt like she belonged somewhere. The graduation ceremony took place on a warm June morning in the school auditorium. Families filled the seats while students in blue caps and gowns waited backstage for their names to be called. Yuna stood at the podium looking out at 800 faces that had become familiar over the past year. She was valedictorian not because she had the highest grades, but because the other students had voted for her. They wanted to hear what the girl who had saved them all had learned about life and courage in growing up. 3 years ago, I left this planet as a scared 14-year-old who thought she knew what bravery meant, Yuna began. I thought brave people were the ones who ran toward danger with weapons in their hands. I thought heroes were the ones who won battles and defeated enemies. Her parents sat in the front row with tears already starting in their eyes. Beside them sat Kai and his grandmother who had raised him after his father died. Ms. Neri was there too, along with dozens of students from her self-defense classes and support groups. I was wrong about almost everything, Yuna continued. Real courage is not about fighting wars. Real courage is about choosing to build peace even when peace seems impossible. Real heroes are not the people who destroy things. Real heroes are the people who put broken things back together. In the back of the auditorium sat 3 tall figures that made some people nervous. Zephyrian diplomats had come to witness the graduation of the human who had once been their greatest enemy. They wore ceremonial robes instead of battle armor and carried flowers instead of weapons. The hardest battle I ever fought was not against alien soldiers on a distant space station, Yuna said. The hardest battle was right here in this building, trying to figure out how to be a normal teenager after I had seen too much and done too much and carried too much responsibility. She looked directly at Rena, who was sitting with her family in the middle section. Her old friend had never completely forgiven her for changing, but she had come to understand that some changes could not be undone. They were not as close as they used to be, but they were not enemies either. I learned that you do not have to choose between being strong and being gentle. You do not have to choose between being a protector and being a person who needs protection sometimes. You can be both things at once, and that is what makes us human. The audience was completely silent. Even the younger students who usually whispered during speeches were paying attention. Today I am announcing my decision about the future, Yuna said. I will study engineering and psychology at Seoul National University. I want to design better systems to help veterans transition back to civilian life. I want to understand how minds heal from trauma and how communities can support people who are struggling. There was applause, but she held up her hand to continue. The war taught me how to destroy things very efficiently. Now I want to learn how to build things that last. I want to use everything I experience to make life better for people who are fighting battles that nobody else can see. When her name was called to receive her diploma, Yuna walked across the stage with steady steps. Principal Han shook her hand and whispered, "Thank you for everything you have done for our school." The Zephyrian diplomats stood and offered her a military salute, which she returned with respect. Former enemies acknowledging each other as equals. It was a moment that would have been impossible during the war, but felt completely natural now. After the ceremony ended, families gathered in the courtyard for pictures and celebrations. Yuna found herself surrounded by classmates and teachers and parents who wanted to congratulate her and wish her well. "Are you ready for university?" Kai asked as they stood together watching the crowd. Yuna looked up at the sky where transport ships moved between Earth and the colonies, carrying people to new lives and new opportunities. She thought about all the challenges ahead and all the work still to be done. "I am ready for whatever comes next," she said. "War or peace or something in between. I know who I am now." She was Yuna, daughter and soldier, student and teacher. Human being who had learned that the strongest people are the ones who choose to help others, even when they are still healing themselves. The future was uncertain, but she was not afraid of it anymore.